Thanks, Chrissy. So, I was raised in an immigrant Chinese family where we had no concept of pets at all. My mom saw dogs as dangerous and dirty animals. My dad barely even recognized them as living beings. So if you look at my family history, I'm the last person who should be here. But I am here today. And there are 3 reasons for that. Reasons I want to share with all of you today. The first reason is my little girl, Lisa. Lisa was one of a few dozen dogs rescued from a dog fighter. A man who intended to have these dogs fight to the death. But Lisa wasn't strong or brave like the other dogs. She was just a tiny little thing, scared and starved, who had never stepped outside of her cage. There were scars covering her body from attacks and bite wounds from other dogs. But despite the fact that Lisa had lived her entire life facing violence, she still had hope. When I first met Lisa, she looked up into my eyes, she crawled up to me and curled up in my lap, and she nuzzled her head into my chest. It was as if she were saying, Wayne, your people, human beings, they have done terrible things to me, but I still dream, I still hope that someday one of you will set me free. 7 years later, Lisa and I are now best friends. When I leave my house, she waits for me at the door. When I come home every day, she jumps up and down in joy. And when I go to sleep, she snuggles up against me so tightly that sometimes she knocks me off my own bed. But there are countless dogs, just like Lisa, in this country who do not share her happy ending. Countless dogs who live unendingly in violent, miserable conditions. In dogfighting rings, dogs have their faces torn off of each other to serve their master's entertainment. In laboratories, dogs are poisoned, tortured, and cut open in the false name of science. And yes, even in shelters, over 4 million dogs are killed, not euthanized, but killed every single year. These victims are not dangerous, they're not violent, they're not sick. Their only crime is being, like Lisa, dogs. Dogs who no one bothered to love. So while we speak strongly for the dogs of China today, I want to ask all of you to not forget the dogs in our own country. Amen. They need our help. They need our strength. They need our love. The second reason I'm here today is another tiny little one named Mei Hua, which in Chinese means beautiful flower. Like Lisa, Mei Hua was a frightened baby when we found her. Like Lisa, Mei was being tortured by an abusive master. And like Lisa, Mei was raised in the most filthy, miserable conditions. Conditions you would not wish on your worst enemy. When we found Mei, her body was so broken down, she could not stand up or even open her eyes. She was a living skeleton, starved to just 1/3 of her normal body weight, 1/3. But unlike Lisa, little Mei was not a dog. She was a hen from a Whole Foods egg farm just an hour from where we're standing today. In that farm, she was wasting away. In that farm, she would have died. But in that farm, on one summer evening, under cover of night, Mei Hua was saved. So I want all of us to remember that there are other animals on this earth who suffer under human tyranny. And I use that word, tyranny, intentionally. Because when we open our eyes to the devastation that mankind has wrought on this earth, there is no other word to describe what is happening to the non-human animals. Tyranny, rule by fear. A poor little chicken, tortured and killed by Whole Foods. A beautiful little puppy,
torn to pieces by a dogfighter in Chicago. And yes, a sad-eyed retriever whose throat is slit by a peasant in Yulin. All of these animals are equal. All of these animals deserve love. And all these animals must be protected from exploitation, violence, and misery. And that brings me to the third reason I'm here today. And that reason is all of you. Because there is hope for the dogs of Yulin. There is hope for the pit bulls of Chicago, and there's hope even for the hens of Petaluma. But that hope resides in each of you, in a growing movement for animals that is rising up across the world. The great critic and writer Frank Bruni of the New York Times has said recently that the era of animal welfare has now passed. A new era of animal dignity and animal rights is now upon us. Great movements throughout history have changed the face of the world. When a people come together and refuse to remain silent in the face of violence and injustice, the seeds for that change are sown. Millions of activists in China are inspired and emboldened by our protest today. We, in turn, are inspired by their brave acts of resistance in the face of a regime that is both repressive and dangerous. By refusing to remain silent in the face of violence, we did make a difference today. But if we continue to raise our voices in the future, we can make an even bigger difference tomorrow. We will change the world until every animal in China, in Chicago, and in San Francisco is safe and happy and free. Thank you and Happy New Year. 新年快乐。